Okay, I am going to start it's just 2 minutes after 6. We said we would start at 6, and many of you are here. So thanks for getting here on time. I will let any latecomers in. Hopefully I can see them. Um, Let me start then. Let me start. So I've had a few WhatsApp messages with some questions, and I've tried to incorporate them into the slides. So the presentation reflects some questions people have sent to me, but I just want to make this as painless as possible. If you do have any questions for me, please put them in the chat box and I will deal with them as soon as I can. So let's get started. So in terms of getting started, if you don't know who I am, I've been doing this for quite a long time. Whilst doing this, I have received various accolades, one of them being the PQ Lecturer of the Year. I work for the ACCA as their ACCA SBL specialist. They call it a tutor guru. But if you go onto their website, you go onto their YouTube channel, if you go into Student Accountant Magazine, you'll see lots of stuff that I've published there. And I also run platinum approved courses, which are the highest level of approval you can get for running courses. So why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this because I do come across quite a few people who are prepared for SBL by going online, but just blindly going online to people who probably aren't on the ACCA's radar. If they are, the ACCA haven't given them any credibility. So the first thing I want to warn you about is the experts online. Is it only their website that's any good? Yeah, you can check most people out by their status. Platinum status is the highest. And yeah, go for that would be my advice. And just be careful of a lot of the fake news many of them peddle. Normally, if a website is free, it's there's normally, yeah, anyway, it's hard to support students completely for free. So just watch out for that. Just got a little message come through there. A participant has enabled closed captioning. Okay, it just might affect the recording. Has someone put closed captioning on? Just let me know and I can change it so it won't affect recording. This will be recorded, this webinar. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. The objective is to answer your questions. So let me keep going. So in terms of me, how you get hold of me, that's how you can get hold of me. I will put this video onto my YouTube channel. So hopefully if you are maybe going to drop out or something like that, you can catch the recording on the YouTube channel. The other thing I'd say to you, if you are thinking of doing the exam in March, and some of you are thinking of doing that, whatever I advise today, maybe think about it carefully and get on with it, because it is getting very close to the point where it might be too late for some of you to take the exam in March. Yep. What I want to talk about, first of all, is I have lots of experience of people who do very well in SBL exams, and you can look at some of their kind of feedback they give about what they did and why they were successful. And just to summarize why students are successful, the first thing I think they have is a desire to pass. So if you didn't pass your exam in December, were you really hungry? Were you really bothered? Was it really important to you? People who pass normally have channeled their desire to pass into something tangible, be it money, be it travel, be it whatever, really. Make sure you channel that and you're personally motivated. Also, people who are successful tend to have good control of their lives and they're very organized. I'll talk more about that in a moment. So do you know when your exam in March is? Do you know how many weeks it is? I'm not expecting you to put that into the chat panel, but if you don't know, how focused are you, would be my question. What else? Well, I think once we have a structure to how we live our lives, what happens is we develop a routine. And what's great about a routine is we don't need any motivation to do it. We just do it, just like brushing our teeth. Yep. The exam is 6 weeks away. It's not that far away, but you would not be trying to prepare for a marathon a week or two before. In the same way, SBL is a marathon and not a sprint. And I would get yourself organized so you do a bit of work regularly and often. Yep. So it doesn't become too much of a chore. Where do you study, or where did you study last time and you weren't successful? Maybe consider thinking about an environment. If you study in the same place, it basically sends a message to your brain where sit down in a tidy environment, no distraction. It's time to study. Get out of that environment. It's time to do something else. So think about that. A lot of psychologists say that works for you. So as well as being personally motivated and personally organized, as I said, be very careful of the experts online and go when studying to someone who has approval by the ACCA. If you want to do things for free, the ACCA has a YouTube channel. The ACCA has a lot of free resources online. Use them. I don't understand why people go on to irrelevant courses by people who aren't approved. Seems crazy to me when you can get free stuff from the ACCA. So stick with the ACCA. If you want someone to maybe help you with focus and mark and give homework and write mocks, well, people probably aren't going to do that for free, certainly not give you lots of detailed feedback. So if you are thinking about investing in a course, make sure you invest in one which has approval by the ACCA. Many of them don't. Okay. So what would I recommend you use in order that you pass your exam next time? Well, first thing I'd say is maybe think about doing something different. Yep, you didn't pass it last time. Yep, so do something different. Resources, have a look on the study text the ACCA produces and maybe make your own notes. Were you doing that last time? You can get lots of past questions from approved exam kits, or again, there are questions on the ACCA Study Hub. And look at the computer-based exam resources. That's how your exam is going to be done. A lot of people do mocks on Word and Excel. Okay, that's an easy thing to do because it's quite a lot. I do all my mocks on the CBE platform. It's a lot more hassle and complicated. But the reason I go through that pain is that's how your exam is. So make sure when you are practicing mocks, you practice them in the same format as your exam is going to be in, and that's on the CBE platform. So if you haven't done that before, on the exam day, you might get caught out because the CBE platform isn't the smoothest. It's certainly not Word or Excel, but that's how your exam is done. So practice. What else do some people get caught up on? People ask me questions about how much technical knowledge they need to know. Well, SBL isn't a technical exam. Okay. So if you learn all of the text and the syllabus, but you don't understand it, you're going to struggle because ACCA SBL is not able to be learned. You need to understand it and you need to get confident in applying your knowledge. And that really comes from having a go and getting feedback from someone who knows what they're talking about. Yeah. So if you're spending hours learning the textbook, some people say I learned the whole textbook. I kind of say, well, that's why you failed, because it's about application of knowledge, not regurgitation. And you need to understand it and you need to apply it in the context of the exam. Okay. So that is what is important. Some people said, what is the difference between SBL and other exams? Well, it's very different, really. And I think it's important to understand why it's been introduced. I worked with the ACCA on developing the training for tutors when it was first introduced in 2018. So I started work on it in about 2016. And SBL is a reflection of how the world of finance is changing. And lots of financial calculations, lots of technical evaluation is all going to be done by a bot if it's not done like that already. But what bots can't do, bots are not very good at making judgment. bots are not very good at giving considered advice that might not be 100% correct. And, that is where accountant's role is going to be. I do a lot of I've written a lot of the CPD for qualified people on finance business partnering and the future of finance. And much of that is really connected to how we as finance people need to engage with our stakeholders going forward. So that's what SBL is preparing us to be like. Yep. So the professional skills marks ask us to think about being skeptical, being evaluative, communication style. And if we were talking to someone who wasn't in finance and we talked about EBITDA, they wouldn't have a clue what we're talking about. Okay. Let me just see this sort of question come through there. Okay, I'll deal with that. I've covered that in a slide. The other thing SBL is about how things are in the workplace. And it's important that you develop confidence and empathy with your answer is one that is reflective of the workplace. And in the workplace, you wouldn't be quoting academic theories. Yet some people seem to think that is important for SBL. You'll get no marks for it. And it doesn't look very professional, to be honest. So always think about the workplace context and also think about how professionalism will guide you in putting together an answer. Things like tax and SBR and AFM, they can be learned from books. However, SBL can't. You need to understand. Why do people fail SBL? Well, they fail it due to poor timing. Why do they have poor timing? Because they haven't done enough mocks to time and got feedback on those mocks to time. So sadly, in the exam, they get a bit of a surprise. And if you only answer maybe 70% of the paper, which is typical for people who have poor timing, you still need to get 50 marks, and you need to get 50 marks out of 70% of the paper. Well, the percentage score for that is, nearly 70%. And that's a lot more difficult than someone who gets 50%. If you answer 100 marks, you only need 50 out of 100. If you answer 70, you need 50 out of 70, which is a much, much, much more difficult task to achieve. So think about your timing, practice that. The markers need help in marking your script. So get them a layout which makes it easy to navigate your paper. Get them a layout which reflects the marks. So poor layout and poor mark focus are things that let students down. They do not write an answer to reflect the marks that are awarded. Yep. And really, to improve your timing, to improve your layout, to improve your mark focus, you need to do quite a lot of practice, and you need to get feedback on how you're doing, what you're doing well, and what you need to improve on. So it's a bit like driving a car. If you drive a car with an instructor, you don't start off great, but you get feedback where you can improve, where you can get better. And the more feedback you get, the better you become. So that's the key to it, really. And if you reflect how many mocks you did to time, how much feedback did you get from people who know what they're talking about, I suspect it wasn't enough. Okay, so that's really, really key. Yeah, make sure you follow that. What else would I say? On time management, if you want a little bit more insight into it, what do we need to do here? Well, you need to have a very strict budget. Okay. Did you have one in your exam? Did you know when your answer or when you were going to finish writing a particular answer? Did you know how much time you had to go and how much time had passed? Yep. If you had a budget, you would have. As a suggestion, it's a 3 hour and 15-minute exam. It's about 195 minutes. You're probably going to spend about 30 minutes reading the additional information. That leaves you with 165 marks over 100 minutes. That's about 1.6 minutes a mark. Now, it depends how you cut this. Some people might think that the professional skills marks take no time to achieve, so you might divide that 165 by 80, which is also fine. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. What matters is that you have a budget. Yep. And essentially, your exam is a project management exercise in mark acquisition. And what I mean by that is there are so many marks to acquire. There are so much time you have to acquire them. If you manage it and you manage it well, you should get through the whole exam. And then you only need to get half of the marks. You only need to get 50%. Damage is when you need to get 50 out of 70. That's really tough. That really is tough. If I was to draw the normal distribution of marks, you're really trying to, when you're getting 50 out of 70, you're putting yourself in about the top 10, 15% of students, all because you didn't manage your time. What about dealing with a scenario? Well, you should have digested the pre-seen material. I will give an overview of pre-seen material. I write a mock link to the pre-seen material, but if you watch out for future webinars, I will give a free analysis, but it's not a question spotting exercise. It's just contextualizing the pre-seen material and what's going on, what you need to be familiar with should a question come up in a particular area of the syllabus. So break the pre-seen material. This is what I do and I analyze it, but then the unseen stuff that comes through, I might label each of the different exhibits, highlight the keywords. I am always trying to visualize and picture what is going on. So what does the story tell? Yep, make it real. It's normally inspired by something in real life. Don't copy real life, but real life is often a very good guide as to the way you should be thinking. As I say, those people that have arrived late, we will put a recording of this on the YouTube channel, but also any questions you have, just pop them in the chat box. I've made some of these slides to reflect questions that people have sent to me prior to the webinar. So as I say about presentation, you need to make the job of the marker easy. You need to have clear headings. You should leave white space between your points because you're essentially saying to the marker, here's a point. What do you think? White space makes a distinction between that point and the next point, the white space. What do you think about that? The number of points you give should reflect how many marks you need to pass, maybe with a couple extra just in case some of your points aren't very good. Psychologically, start strong with a good opening statement. White space. Well, here's an example of an answer written without white space, and here's an example of an answer written with it. You can see how this is much easier than the one I just showed you, and the marker can mark that pretty easily. Okay. When you prepared for your exam in December, it's really important that you reflect how you did prepare, and you need to reflect, what could I do better next time? Because if you don't do that, well, you need to make changes. Yep. Because if you're going to be successful, you have to do something different from last time. The other question I had was March or September. Should I do it in March? Sorry, or June? I would suggest, first thing I'd say is when I was an accountancy student, I wanted to get my exams out of the way as soon as possible. So I'm very reluctant to put people off taking an exam because if it was me, I'd want to get it out of the way. But if you do want to take your exam in March, if maybe you passed an exam that you weren't expecting to pass, and you're thinking, do I do it in March or June? It is possible to pass your exam in March, but it's only possible, I would suggest, if you get some really good guidance. I'd say it's only possible if you're quite committed and sacrifice, more time than maybe you would if you were taking it in June. But hey, you're going to get closer to becoming a qualified accountant. It might be your last exam. And if you're a qualified accountant, think about that. Yeah, you're going to double or triple your salary in the next 2 to 5 years just because you passed the exam. So I'm completely with you on getting it out of the way as soon as possible. So March is possible. I would probably close my March Platinum course, I think, probably by the end of the week, because people who want to do it will be getting on with it. People who are procrastinating and thinking about it, that's fine. But maybe you aren't really the person that is going to be committed enough to pass in March. So think about doing it in June. So it depends how hungry you are. Depends if you're going to go off on holiday in the next week. You've got a busy year end, which many people have in January and February. Only you know the answer, but it is possible, is what I'd say. I was going to just give you a very, very brief overview of how you should be thinking about SBL using one area of the syllabus, which is technology and data analytics. The problem, sorry, that's my students WhatsApping me. I allow my students to WhatsApp me 24/7, and that's what's coming through, but I will deal with that later. Apologies. Let me just show you about technology. So in the area of technology, you need to know about cloud and mobile. You need to know about big data. You need to know about machine learning, artificial intelligence and robotics. You need to know about e-business and value chain. And you need to know about IT systems, security, and you need to know about control. Okay, so that's what we need to know. Now, some people who may have marginally failed their exam in December would have approached the exam by learning all the technical stuff about mobile and smart technology, about big data and data analytics, about all of those things on the syllabus. But sadly, they haven't thought of it in the context of real life. They haven't thought about it in the context of the workplace. And therefore, their answer was quite regurgitative and was quite wooden. So how would I talk to my students about technology and data analytics? Well, let me show you. If I'm talking about cloud, what would I say? Well, what I'd say is I would think about how's it going to benefit a business? And when I think about that, I would think about, well, we've got IT, it can share information across a whole team and they can identify mistakes. There's probably checks on accounts across the whole team. We can communicate to people around the world. A simple one in real life, if you've never done any study, you will be familiar with the Ring doorbell, where someone rings on your doorbell and you may be on holiday halfway around the world, but the internet will allow you to answer the door. Well, technology can do that for business as well. The Internet of Things, you may have a smart fridge that knows what you take out of your fridge and what you put in and can help you construct a better shopping list. You may have an Apple Watch. You may track your steps with a smartwatch or whatever. But all these things that we use in our real life are things that can also be beneficial to business. But people tend not to make the connection. People compartmentalize things that, oh, what do I have to learn? It's like, think a bit more broadly. If you can do that, you can apply and you can contextualize information. Automatic cars which drive for themselves. In California now, they allow Teslas and other electric cars to be self-driving. They have fleets of self-driving taxis in China in some places. So that's the future. We won't need a taxi driver. The cars will drive us ourselves. So you may have automatic month end going on. And that's why SBL has come along to prepare us for when that will be for everyone. Yeah, it'll be automated. Or there's no telephonist anymore. That's all automated. Many things are automated. So just think about it on big data. Some of the volume, velocity, variety, veracity. They regurgitate this stuff, not having a clue what it means. Think about how it can help. Think about how IT can do things 24/7. Think about how much information is coming at you and how it might be difficult to deal with. And also, those of you who go on to the fake news on YouTube from people who, me as someone that trains SBL tutors around the world, I've never heard of these people, yet there's amazing how many students listen to them. And I often listen to them as well. And some of the things they say are just plain wrong. And that's all about veracity. Yeah, you just accept it because it's a nice website. But honestly, believe me, as a trainer of tutors, some of what they say, they haven't updated for years. What's machine learning? How does it work? Well, you must know about AI. I've told you about how it replaces transactional accounting. We use robots for bomb disposal and nuclear power. We can use it all the time. Yeah. So we think about the value chain. I could give you a mnemonic for that. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but what I'm trying to come across here to explain to you is if you kind of learnt everything as a technical exercise, you're going to really struggle to apply it. So it's very important to try to think about maybe how e-business, I mean, do you buy anything off Amazon? What's the benefit of it? Do you buy stuff off AliExpress from China? And how does that work? How does Amazon facilitate good working capital management through low stock? Yep. All of those things I'm sure you are aware of. Also, there's cookies when you buy things. They know who you are, what you like, how old are you, where you live. All of that is great for marketing in the future and intelligence gathering. Okay, so that is an example of some of the few things I would use when talking about, well, I'll do one more. On systems and control, when you log in at work or you log on in your phone, do you have face recognition? You have fingerprint recognition, biometrics. The same thing can be using for extra security in the office, in the factory. When I log on to a lot of my apps, I use two-step verification. Think about, do you do that? Okay, that's real life. Why are you not telling me this in the exam? Why are you relying on what you learned in a book? What you learned in a book is still relevant, but to connect it and contextualize it to your real life will just make your answers flow so much better. Okay, so there's an example of how I want your brain to work. Other things I would suggest to you is have confidence to brainstorm. Once you've brainstormed the key issues in the scenario, then think about applying them in the context of what the scenario is. Yep, that's what's important. As I keep saying, yeah, if you're procrastinating, thinking about what to do, your March exam's in about 6 weeks' time. If you're hungry, if you want to pass this, you will get out of bed an hour earlier. You really want it. If you're still thinking about it, maybe think about June. Okay. However, with the right support, with the right focus, you can definitely do it. Yeah. I do a revision course which helps people maybe think differently. What do I do on a revision course? Well, I use proper ACCA materials. I've recorded about over 40 videos where I basically summarize key areas of the syllabus, but the focus is on using past questions which take apart each of those areas of the syllabus. If you've got any questions from me, you WhatsApp me, as people have been doing while I've been talking to you. People WhatsApp me all the time right until the day of the exam. I am involved, if you go onto the ACCA YouTube channel, preparing examiner insights on behalf of the ACCA for ACCA students around the world. I have extra insights on my course. I give marked homework. I do 2 ACCA mocks, which I get marked by actual ACCA markers. I make you do the mock on the CBE platform so you get used to it. As I say, it's a bit clunky, but please, if you don't do a course, you can do that yourself. You probably won't get real ACCA markers to mark it, but it's better than doing it on Word. The final mock I do will actually use the pre-seen material. The one in December used the December material. The one in March will use the March material, and the one in June will use the June material. So, it really makes you focus on that. Whatever you do, please do a mark to time. If you're not going to do a course, try and find a study buddy that will mark it for you and give comments, and maybe you can mark theirs. That's so important. And many people just kind of answer audit mocks. It's really important to put yourself through it. I mean, if you're practicing for your driving test, would you watch videos of an exam or of someone driving, or would you get in the car and drive? I think you know the answer. Yep. These are my contact details. I've also got a link tree that I can send you. I put lots of stuff on YouTube. I will put a recording of this on YouTube. And yeah, if you have anything, as I say, I'll give you a 2 minute warning in term. If you've got any questions, put them in. I haven't had any extra ones other than what I was sent in advance, and hopefully I've dealt with them okay. I hope you found it useful. You can, and if those of you who arrived late, I will put a copy of this online. Main thing I'd say to you is, I think the most important thing I'd say to you is you have chosen to do your accountancy exams. Why have you chosen to do them? If you haven't got that clear, I think you need to get clarity on that. And once you've got clarity on that, use that to channel your motivation so you get these exams out of the way as soon as possible. Yeah, it is not a life being a part qualified accountant. My advice would be, if you are one of those, you should go and do something else, because the pay compared to a qualified accountant is rubbish, and part qualified accountants are or should be on a journey to becoming qualified. Yep. So, in paying for a course is not a cost, it is an investment in you getting a higher salary much more quickly. And in terms of, doubling or tripling your salary, the investment in a course is nothing compared to getting a high salary. So think about those things, make some sacrifices, get yourself qualified as soon as possible. If you don't like accounts, well, fine. It's far better to leave as a qualified accountant, because then you'll get a certain salary, which when you move sideways into another job, you'll maintain. Yep. You know what to do. Get on with it. I wish you all the very best. If you did fail, hey, everyone fails. Failure is a good thing if we learn from it. I wish you all the very best, whether you take the exam in March or you take the exam in June. And if you have any further questions, just WhatsApp me and I'll get right back to you. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. All the very best.